Well, I installed Windows 8 a year and a half or whenever, maybe 2 years ago, to an SSD, which was 128 gig, good at the time, but still small. So I needed to upgrade. So I went out and bought myself a new Samsung 250 gigabyte drive. Here's the drive, no big deal. Now, in the past, what I would do, I'd take a new drive and I would install the OS completely brand new, clean, and install all the programs. I didn't feel like doing it this time, so I decided I'm just going to buy the Samsung, which came with this disk, which has some great cloning and data migration utilities. So let's take a look at that today. So what I did was I didn't physically install it because I don't want to do it all and get it all done and then find out something's wrong and have to take it back out again. So I just temporarily hooked it up to the system to make sure that everything worked fine. It's in parallel with the other drive that I'm going to clone from, and so that I can do all that and test it. So let's get started. This next part is different for everybody's system. I had 4 hard drives. I disconnected one so that I could plug that hard drive or the SSD in. And the system is now trying to recognize it. And there it is. It found it. So we're going to go through the setting up of the system first, so at least it can access it to do all the stuff we need to do to it. Now it's very important you choose this operation here because you're going to need to use it because you cannot have Windows Fast Boot working unless you use the newer type of interface. So you need to make sure you select the correct one during initialization. Now I've already installed the software. You can just do that off your CD. But this is the data migration. It's going to copy the current OS off the C drive to a new copy onto the Samsung over here. So let's get to it. One of the things that it wants to have, though, is when you click on it, is saying, oh, target disk and all that. Uh, I don't know if I did it exactly the right way, but it'll go out there and identify the right ones. You look at your drive sizes here on the left, 111 up top and 232. That tells you got the right ones selected, even though the interface may be a little bit confusing. Now, this next step, I did the Samsung software might have done it, but I went back to the disk manager and finished the setup of the drive, which I should have done earlier. I go ahead and click on the next button here because we first had it recognize the hardware, and now we're going to set up the actual disk. So we check our settings here, say next, and it's going to create this as a volume. You're going to assign a drive letter. I just left it where it did. And the drive type of system is NTSF. And here I'm going to give it a name, Samsung, whatever. The point being is that it's actually going to get overwritten during the cloning operation anyways. But I just wanted to make sure the disk was initialized before I went any further. So then we click on the next button here, and there's your information about your disk. And boom, we're done. Now it recognizes as a fully complete disk. And it shows up over here. So let's go back to the disk manager now, and we're going to go ahead and continue this operation here. And now we see everything's ready to go here, the target disk and all that. Again, don't be confused by the name being the same up here. A little glitch there. Should have read that was the C drive, the current name of the C drive. But let's go ahead and ensure that it's the 111. It's going to be cloned onto the 200 and whatever. And of course, this will differ depending upon what system you get. So we're all done. Even if I refresh it, we're going to go ahead and say next. And there's a warning here. You want to make sure that you're not overwriting what you're going to do. Are you sure you want to continue? It's irreversible. So you want to look again, make sure everything's okay. And we're going to go ahead and start the operation. And there we go. We're now overwriting. If you notice, we have the percentages being displayed. It talks about going to be reboot. All these things are going to happen here during the cloning operation. Very nice, clean looking, and we'll see some activity here pretty soon on the screen. So now we see it starting to increment there. Now I'm going to shut down my recording software because the software is running from the C drive. It's recording files somewhere else, but just to make sure everything gets copied, I'm going to shut that down and we'll continue on here in a minute. Now what I did do is I copied a series of screenshots here to show progress and what goes on during that. And then of course after this cloning was done, I copied all those over to my place where I save all these files. But it actually went to 100% and then stuck there for a while and continued a little longer time. Finally said, here it is, complete, everything's done. And sure enough, we have two of exactly the same name disks. The first one on top has a little Windows flag on it, that's the OS volume. And the same name disk below that is the SSD. So I'm going to shut down the system, unplug the OS disk, put the new one in, and reboot and see if it comes up. Well, believe it or not, this is it. This is the clone disk. You'll notice that we have more disk space available. It's the Samsung disk. It perfectly copied my OS, booted up just fine. Now there's some other things we have to do all that, but it all booted up. If we look at the disk manager, we look at everything that's here. We come down and you'll see that we have our new disk installed, perfectly healthy, perfectly fine. You're ready to go. But again, I said it a minute ago, but we have to do some other things that you'd have to do whenever you put a new drive in. We're going to cover those too. Now that I've done doing all this and making sure that it works correctly, I'm going to go ahead and put the drive back in the system, button it up, screw it down, and make sure everything's nice and neat, and put the system all back together. And then I'm going to boot it up again, and we're going to go into the other software that was installed off the CD, and it's called Samsung Data Magician. Oh, here's my system with all the hard drives hooked back up. The one I took out to temporarily format the other drive or clone the drive. So now we're going to go take a look at the Data Magician. Now here you see a menu here that comes up and tells you the status of your hard drive, but this is just the beginning, so let's take a look at some of the things that are going on here. Now, this information here, the Samsung, it's really designed to work with that drive. Now, there's a drop down that shows you all your available drives, including my Western Digitals, but it doesn't really do anything. There's software that comes from Western Digital that can manage your stuff, but you can go take a look and see what status it shows on those. But what's more important is that you can check the health of each one of those drives. Now, there's a utility called a system called Smart, which basically checks your hard drive's health. What's important to know here is simply, you can get into all the technical reasons, but basically if your right-hand column over there says okay, you're good to go. There's nothing bad going on with your hard drive, overheating, bad writes, and all that. Now what you can do with this is you can use their authentication here to make sure that that serial number is registered to them, because some drives get stolen, trucks get stolen, whatever, and they're not going to honor the warranty unless you have a good drive that's not on their rolls. Sure enough, you got it bought from a reputable dealer. There it is. You're good to go. So let's take a look at some of the other features here. Now you get a summary here that says that your drive is good, how much written so far, a nice visual display of your status of how much you have remaining, and how much used. Now ACH mode is important because for Windows Fastboot, your motherboard has to support AHCI mode in order to actually run. Now this one has it, it's activated, they've been around for a while. The next one is your SATA interface. The system I'm on has two 6 gig and two 3 gig, and they say, hey, I'm not connected up to a 6 gig. Well, that's because I want some of my 2 data drives that are larger drives, I want them to be on the 6 gigs. And I'm okay with that because this thing runs blazingly fast, even not being hooked up that way. So these are some of the drives that are connected up here. Now, I'm going to leave my SATA interface the way it is. You may want to, if it says that you got a free one and you have extra 6 gigabyte connections, I would go ahead and switch them and increase your performance. OS optimization. This gets a little more techy about it. Your hard drive performing better with optimization, and Windows has these commands built into them as well. But basically, you can set them up for maximum performance, maximum capacity, or maximum reliability. Okay, and you can go in here and we can go ahead and set it up. Now, the thing is, I did a performance benchmark already to check to see how well it's working. So we can go ahead and run it again, but there's the details of it right there. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we should be able to get better numbers down here once we run the performance, the optimization. Optimization, by the way, is nothing, well, for SSD, it's different than optimization for hard drives. And we're going to take a look at how to do that, but we're going to go look at the Windows interface for that, and you'll know it as disk defragmenter. It optimizes the way the system operates. The SSDs aren't told the same commands as hard drives. SSDs aren't don't bother to delete things because it just wears and tear. So instead, we're going to go over here to the new SSD we have here, and we're going to click on Properties, and we're going to click on Tools, and then we're going to move over, and there's defragment your drives. We're going to go over to the Optimize command. So we're going to click on that, and you'll notice it says here that it's never been optimized. So what we need to do is optimize it. It's more about optimization than fragmentation. Again, because the technologies are different the way they operate. But like it says here, we're going to go ahead and click on it and tell it to optimize, and bam, it's done. No hours of doing it. It's optimized. It's ready to go because of the way the technology works. So now that we're done with that, we can go ahead and shut all this down. We're good to go. Our system is configured correctly for optimization. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's go over here and decide what we're going to do here. There's performance optimization that's in this utility that's in the Samsung utility. But now let's go into a little more detail here about the optimization. Now, if you look here, we have these different options. There's maximum performance, maximum capacity, and all that. Now, each one of these has certain things that you can do. Maximum performance, hibernation mode is enabled. Virtual memory. So these are presets. You can go in here and learn about each one of them, and it tells you exactly what to do. If you don't need a page file, there's no reason to have a page file because you have enough memory, and different things here. You don't have to be a techie. What's really good about this, you can click the apply button at the bottom and just go ahead and apply maximum performance. Maximum capacity, it doesn't do some of the other things. So if we click on each one of these down here, you can learn about each one of them and their recommendations. It's very informative and very easy to follow. So you may want to take a little time to take a look at that. Now what I've done is I've clicked on the Advanced tab to see that you can do these by yourself. If you do the research, you can say, okay, I want to deactivate hibernation mode, for example. Boom, it's done. And it switches to activate. Now you're going to want to actually leave that on because you need that on in order to do the Windows 8 fast boot. So you just go through each one of these options and decide whether or not what you want to do with each one, depending upon your system. You see there's the I do not have a page file set up. So it helps you do this if you're a techie guy want to do it. Instead of using the presets, you just come over here and do the advanced and step through each one, activating and deactivating each one of those items that you want to take care of. Now, for example, I clicked on the prefetch superfetch. Not only does it tell you exactly what it does, okay, but and what this basic does, but it gives you a recommendation for the SSD. So whatever it says, you make your decision. I'm going to say deactivate because I don't need it. So we're going to go down the list. Now we're going to go here to the right cache buffer. It must be enabled for better SSD performance. Okay, and it says deactivate, so it's already on. So we go here to the right cache flushing, and it says it's for in case of power outages, and make sure that the cache memory is not corrupted. When using SSD, other features should also be turned on. Well, so if we go over here and we take a look at it, I'm going to leave it because it says here deactivate. I'm going to leave it on. To the advanced, and then what you see here is that we're going to go down here and talk about system restore, and sure enough, that's good old system restore. Now it just tells you about it and its usual stuff. So we're going to go ahead and go to the system restore. You just click on shortcut, it'll go right out to Windows, and sure enough, you'll see that I have system restore turned on for my drive. I did that manually. I didn't put it in the capture, but if you click, if you're not turned on, you should turn it on. And you can configure it, but for each drive, I only do the C drive. Go here. I only have a couple meg set up for it, so we're good to go on the system restore. By the way, if we click on it like this, you'll see that I did a system restore, and I put a comment in about what I did when installing the new drive. So that's what it is. Each time you do an install that requires it, it'll do a restore. That'll name it for you, and you have multiple restores to choose from, depending upon the size. So let's move on to over-provisioning. A little complicated here as well. Now, over-provisioning, theoretically, Some people say there's a big storm in the community about whether it does anything or not. Well, here's what Samsung says. The SSD will perform better and last longer if it has free space available to use as swap space. And this utility will help you set aside such space by resizing the partitions on your drive. The swap space is used to perform routine SSD maintenance. That's trim and garbage collection. That's the things that are used instead of deleting and overwriting files. And anyways, it'll do that in the background during idle time, and that allows the SSD controller to prepare free block for the OS to use in the future. So that way it doesn't take time to do those operations. Well, being that I have all this new hard drive space and everything, I'm going, oh look, I got 100. So if I take 20%, I'm down to 111 free. I can resize it later on, as long as I can reduce it later on. I'm going to go ahead and run this, and anything that can help continue the life of the drive, I'm in favor of. So here it is, go ahead and doing it, and it finished. So go over here and look at the hard drive now, and we'll see that the hard drive is now, let me scroll down. It has this unallocated space here at the end, which is used by the drive system now to make sure things run a little bit smoother and faster. Okay, so that's over provisioning. Make your own choice on whether you want to do that. Performance reliability versus space. Secure erase. I'm not going to touch this, but this is really used for deleting everything on your hard drive. They can never be done. Do anything with it. So right now we have that drive selected. So if I was to do this, I could delete everything on it. Now, rapid real-time acceleration processing. Basically, it just says that we're meeting requirements. We can enable that if we want. Now, if we look here, I met all the requirements over here, so we're good to go on that, on this system here. It'll only do one drive at a time, like it says down there. But what's more important is that, do I need to have this again or not? Well, I'm going to put my trust in the Samsung a little bit here, and decide that because I've met all these requirements and my system will take advantage of it, I'm going to go ahead and enable this feature. By the way, if you want to know more about, you look for the questions marks on this software, you'll get an explanation. As you can see here, it gives you a lot of information about what it does. It's a lot of maybe marketing stuff. I used to be even more of a geek, and I'd research out for hours. Well, again, it says it's going to make it fast. It's automatic. Why not take advantage of it? I'm going to go ahead and enable the feature. Now, of course, it says here that you have to restart your system afterwards, so we're going to go ahead and enable it. It's getting it ready. Within a second or two here, we'll see the results. And there we go. Now it has to reboot. So we're going to go away and reboot. So here we are back in the system after the reboot, and we're going to go over here and you see it's enabled, and we're good to go. Let's go down to the next option, which is data security. Different things you can do here, and it'll explain all that to you. I really didn't do anything here. You can use, again, click the question marks, and you can get an understanding about that. This particular one talks about the BIOS and locking and all that. Anyways, just take a look at this and decide what you want to do as far as data security. I'm pretty much ambivalent about it. I don't use BitBlocker or anything, but that's really up to you. So what has all this work done and everything? So let's go back to the drive status screen here. And we've gone over all the different options and everything, but what has it really done for us as far as performance goes? Well, if you remember earlier, I've already done a performance test and everything on the SSD. So we can go ahead and run another performance test and see if anything's gotten any better by doing those tweaks. Now, what I did is that I looked here, and here's the initial test I did before. Okay, so I can go ahead and run another test now to see if things are operating any faster. So I'll go ahead and do all that. Now, if you notice here, there's a heck of a lot of difference. I skipped the actual test, but here's the here it is here as far as the current test. And if I go to history, you'll see here that the dramatic increase in performance by running, configuring the system and everything to work that much better. So I would highly recommend you go through all these to see these. You can't do the tweaks for the other drives down here because they're not, again, they're not Samsungs. You can do some tests, which I went down and did later on. I went down and did all these tests down here for each one, but it doesn't. There's no tweaking involved in those, at least from this utility. So there you have it. Here's your new hard drive configuration with the amount of space left. All my other stuff is still there, and here's the comparable drive over here. But it tells you exactly what you want to know about your system. Anyways, let's go back up here to the actual system itself. There's some other things you can click on here to refresh your data, get some system info, and all that kind of stuff. You can explore that on your own. And so there it is. This is the Samsung Magician. Use the data migration tool first to move it over. Come in here, do the Magician to set up your system and optimize it, and you'll be up and running with a nice, speedy, fast system in no time. And don't forget to subscribe to Old Guy Geek. We have videos on Windows 8, actually Windows 10 now, Windows Phone 8, and some general how-to. So click on the subscribe link and come join us for an exciting look at all the new features in the various versions of Windows.